godfather of the Irish drill. Shout out my boy, DEMEGODTV.
It's Wave God in this motherfucker. Hey, shout my nigga Demi Tito.
Got the song pop like I'm Iggy. All they talking about is last night like I'm Demi. Say you got.
Rupees donated $5. Damn ski pulled the Michael.
I have a note. They've been doing a little. Yeah, let's see what the. That nigga Demi was like,
What's up, Dean TV, Dean Nation, Dean family? Today we're doing a reaction to general knowledge, and it's called "How Did Each Month Get Its Name?" You feel me? And if you didn't know why these months was called these months, you finna learn why. You feel me? Yeah, it's basically made up. Yeah, you feel me? Like, yeah, we're gonna see why. If you're new to the channel, cause it's gonna be education, you're gonna learn you something, you feel me, today. And if you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's birthday as a family. Join the member gang, you feel me? And you can have access to videos before they drop, before they even drop, you feel me? Be a demigod, you feel me? Yeah. Be ahead of the game, you feel me? Yeah. And check out the Dean TV clothing merch in the description box below. Roll to 50K, 100K, a million, and billion. So click that subscribe button. Let's birthday as a family, as a nation. And no further ado, let's get into this reaction.
Uploaded. It is the end of the year, and it got me thinking about the way we measure our time by hours, days, weeks, but most of all, months. Every country in the world, apart from 4, uses the Gregorian calendar. There are also 18 others that use the Gregorian plus a parallel
Gregorian. I can't say that shit right. Gregorian.
internal one, like Egypt, Israel, Morocco, India, among others. But in the mainly used Gregorian calendar, each year is divided into 12 months, and each month has a name. So where do these names come from? That is what we're going to find out in this video. The Gregorian calendar was introduced in the year 1782 by Pope Gregorian XIII, getting its name from that pope. It was a minor modification of the Julian calendar, used until then since 46 BC and named.
So the Romans and the Pope, huh? Okay.
After Julius Caesar. The change between the two was making a year 365.2425 days instead of 365.25 in order to adjust the difference between tropical and solar years, a slight difference between the time it takes to go through the 4 seasons and the time it takes to go around the sun. But that is irrelevant for this video. We want to focus on why months have their names, where they come from, and what they mean. The Gregorian calendar did not change the name of the months of the previous Julian one, and so their name origins lie in the Roman leaders' calendar. Before Julius Caesar put his calendar into use, the old Roman calendar existed, and in it, many of the names were already the same, or at least similar or in a Latin version, and Julius Caesar did not immediately change or adapt them. The only immediate change was the elimination of an intercalary month that the old Roman calendar had. Every 2 years, they had a month called intercalaris or Mercedonius. For curiosity's sake, this removed month was named after the word merces, meaning wages, because it coincided with the time of the year when workers got paid. Julius Caesar only removed that month, and only 2 months were eventually renamed, July and August. July, or Julius, was renamed from Quintilis in 44 BC, after Julius Caesar himself, in his honor, since it was the month of his birth, and Sextilis was renamed to August, or Augustus, to honor Augustus as well, the first Roman emperor, in the year 8 BC, due to the events that led to his rise to power, which culminated.
So basically, they name after Roman kings, Roman conquerors, Roman rulers, these freaking months. You feel me? Yeah.
In the fall of Alexandria, and this took place in that same month. And just like August used to be Sextilis and July used to be Quintilis, which were the other month names. All of them, since the Roman calendar, were the same as they are today, only written in Latin. Januarius, Februarius, Martius, Aprilis, Maius, Junius, Quintilis, Sextilis, and then September, October, November, and December. And so, other than July and August, all other 10-month names have their origin in that ancient Roman calendar. A fun fact, the Roman calendar called the first day in each month calend, signifying the start of a new lunar phase. The term seems to come from calendai, related to the Latin calare, meaning to call or to proclaim. On this day, the pontiffs would announce the number of days until the next month. In addition, people with debts had to pay them on this day. These debts were inscribed in the calendaria, effectively an accounting book. And the English term calendar comes from this early definition which the Romans used. So this is how they determined when months started, lunar phases. But how did they determine the name of each month? January is named after the ancient Roman god Janus. Janus was the god of beginnings, gates, and time. Being so, it would make sense that the first month of the year was named after him. Janus also presided over the beginning and ending of conflict, war, and peace. There was a building in ancient Rome named after him, and the Romans would open its gates in times of war, closing them when peace was reached. However, there seems to be some records by ancient Roman farmers which state that the Januarius name was not after the god of beginnings, Janus, but instead after the goddess of marriage and childbirth, Juno, the patron goddess of Rome and the Roman Empire. However, not only do the functions of Janus better adapt to the concept of a month being the god of time, but there are also records of the first sacrifice.
They just got the Roman and European and empire just all up in our face.
Sacrifices of the year in ancient Roman practices being made in honor of him, with writings pointing to him as also being the patron of the cosmic year. But many also say that the month is named after the two, with Janus and Juno.
Okay, what religion does that? So yeah,
Cooperating. Maybe both, maybe just one, but I would say Janus is the most likely origin. When it comes to February, there is an ancient Roman god named Februs, meaning the purifier, precisely the god of purification, also the god of riches, and connected with the concept of the underworld. However, nothing points to this being the origin of the month's name, and it's simply a coincidence, even though there is an indirect connection, as it is said that February is named after the word februa, which was a ritual of washing and purification that took place in ancient Rome around this time. But the god was named after the festival, not the other way around, and so it just shares its common origin with the month name.
what type of purification you doing though?
Oddly, in English, or at least in England, before the Latin name was adopted, the most common Old English name for the second month of the year was Solmonath, meaning literally mud month. Quite the opposite of the concept of being washed. Unless you were washing the mud off, a lesser used term was Kale Monath, which meant cabbage month. Maybe because cabbages were planted or harvested in this month. March is in fact named after a specific god, Mars. A fun fact, Mars was actually the first month of the Roman calendar at first, then being demoted to number 3. The god Mars was regarded as an ancestor of the Roman people through his sons Romulus and Remus, who would have then gone on to found the city of Rome according to their mythology. March marked a return to the active life of farming, military campaigning, and sailing. When it came to the god himself, he was the god of war, but also an agricultural guardian, which makes sense due to what we just mentioned began in this month. April is next. The Romans thought that the name Aprilis derived from aperio, aperire, apertus, a verb meaning to open, referring for instance to the blooming and opening of flowers and fruits with the arrival of spring. Although some ancient references provide an alternate explanation, stating that it came from the word apru, which would have derived from Aphrodite, the Greek counterpart of the Roman goddess Venus, whose festival began in this month. Interestingly, just like Caesar renamed July and August, Emperor Nero attempted to rename the month of April to Neronius in his own honor. He also tried to change May to Claudius and June to Germanicus. However, these changes were not successful. May continued being called the original name of Maius. The Romans considered May an unfortunate month, although I couldn't find the reason why. And in fact, it began with one of the most notoriously happy holidays of the Roman calendar, the Games of Flora, in honor of Flora, the goddess of flowers, vegetation, and fertility. But the month, as we can see by its name, is not named after her. In fact, it is named after another goddess, Maya, associated with the same values represented by Flora. However, the Roman poet Ovid provides an alternate etymology for the word, stating that it might be named after Latin maiores, meaning elders. Ovid also states that the next month, June, is in similarity named after the term to define young people, juniors. In his
How come he talking a little fast, but he kind of double back? Like, I don't know, yeah.
on the Roman calendar, Ovid has three goddesses present three different derivations of the name Junius. Junus, which we saw for January, asserts that the name is named for her. Juventas states it is after her, sharing the same origin of youth as we just saw, while Concordia claims that Junius comes from Jungo, Junctus, which means to join, in honor of her uniting the Romans
That's kind
and
of
the
crazy
Samnites,
that
another
that
Italian
man
people, and even
name
less.
is almost like the same name as this you know what that's going around and keep going crazy. And we in chapter 21 of the Zero Jump, and it came out the same month as. It's kind of coincidence, man. I don't think not.
Likely derivation relates the month name to the figure of Marcus Junius Brutus. He was an ancestor of a famous and powerful Roman family called the gens Junia, and so the name would perhaps come from the family Junia, but this is unlikely. In the oldest calendar attributed by the Romans to Romulus, Junius was the fourth month in a 10-month year that began with March. The month following June was thus called Quintilis, meaning the fifth month. After the calendar reform that produced a 12-month year, Quintilis became the seventh month, but retained its name. Quintilis was under the guardianship of the supreme Roman god Jupiter, equivalent to the Greek Zeus, even though it also had festivals of agriculture and others devoted to Neptune and Apollo. But besides these connections to gods, none of them had their name given to the month, only Julius Caesar. Next is August, initially called Sextilis. In the original Roman calendar, it was the 6th month, and so the name came from that. After the calendar reform, it became 8th, but retained its name for a while, until it was renamed Augustus in 8 BC in honor of the first Roman emperor. And then we have September, October, November, and December. All of them are named according to the order in which they were in that first Roman calendar, being the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th month, respectively. In the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, the year began in September on some calendars and was the beginning of the imperial
That sounded really interesting, cause like we got shit backwards.
tax year. Some of the observances in October marked the close of the season of the military campaign and farming, which had begun in March. And because of this, October was, just like March, also under the guardianship of the god of war and agriculture, Mars. November was under the guardianship of Diana, patroness of the countryside, hunters, crossroads, and the moon, equated to the Greek Artemis, but the month was never renamed after her. And December, after the calendar reform, continued being the last month of the year, but retaining the name of the 10th. It is honestly odd, given that these 4 months were named after their position on the calendar, they were not renamed once the position changed. Just like we saw Caesar rename July and August, and Nero attempted his own failed remainings, there were also other Roman emperors which attempted to do the same as well, all of them unsuccessful in the long term. In 37 AD, Caligula renamed September as Germanicus after his father, and in 84 AD, Domitian tried doing the same, as well as renaming October as Domitianus after himself. Emperor Commodus attempted to rename all 12 months to Amazonius, Invictus, Felix, Pius, Lucius, Aelius, Aurelius, Commodus, Augustus, Herculius, Romanus, and Exuperatorius. This last one was really simple. I wonder why it didn't catch on. Other name changes were proposed but were never implemented. Tiberius rejected a senatorial proposal to rename September as Tiberius and October as Livius, and Emperor Antoninus Pius also rejected a senatorial decree renaming September as Antonius and November as Faustina after his empress. All of these attempted changes, as we can see, were either refused or did not last. Much more lasting than these attempted changes by Roman emperors were the old High German names introduced by Charlemagne. According to his biographer, Charlemagne renamed all of the months into German, taking into account an agricultural perspective. These names were used until the 15th century, over 700 years after his rule, and continued with some modifications to see some use as traditional month names until the late 18th century. The names, I won't even try to read them because I would be awful at pronouncing them, were these. But as we can see, all of them, except maybe 2 or 3, are named after agricultural practices or times. So, that is how each month of our current Gregorian calendar, as well as of the old Julian and Roman calendars, got their names.
That's really interesting.
These calendars have tremendous other details about the ways in which they were created and how they work, as do various other calendars that were used by people around the world throughout history, most of them being abandoned for the global usage of the Gregorian one. Although, as we saw, some remain in parallel use. I obviously couldn't fit all that information into this video, so if you want a specific video about how calendars work or something of the sort, where I talk about the history of measuring and organizing time and how different people created and organized different types of calendars,
Hope you guys like that. Dean found D Nature, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video on all social media. Comment below what else you want to do next. And yeah, he kind of gave us some information about these months, Dean family, and like we don't really know what month it is. We don't know what time it is. We don't even know what day it really is, cause honestly, they just made it up to really distract us and very limit us and distract us, you feel me? And basically, like, population control, you feel me? You know, limit us. So, yeah, Dean family, hope you got some education, knowledge, and help you guys. Love you guys. See you guys next